Yeah, there we go. I also work for the city of Monroe as a director of community centers and programs, and I'm just so excited to see y'all because last month we had our social over at the Lotus Club, and it was super fun, but I didn't see all of y'all's faces, and so I've been missing y'all, and I'm happy that we're back. First, we just want to give a huge shout out to Flying Tiger for allowing us to use this beautiful building to host our meetings, and Victory Pizza for the delicious pizza. What do y'all think about that pizza? It's good, yeah? It is so good. So we're super excited to have them cater for us and take care of all of the things. It makes it just so much easier. We also want to give a huge shout out to the Chamber for pouring into our young professionals and just always encouraging us, building us up to make our communities better, and to just have a happy and fun life here in Monroe and in Ouachita Parish. So let's give it up for Roy, Daphne, and the Chamber. All right, perfect. So at this time, y'all hear I'm a little stuffy, so I don't want to hear myself talk anymore. I'm going to bring up Lamont to ask our speaker a few questions. The topic for today is, oh God, I'm having a brain fart.
Charting your own course.
Charting your own course by Justin Underwood.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lamont Wyndham, and y'all know me. I'm usually unconventional when it comes down to introducing our speakers.
Oh, man.
And he's really not everybody knows Justin. Who doesn't know Justin? But for those of you who don't know, 2007, he started out in real estate as an appraiser and a real estate agent. In 2013, became a mortgage lender. And you can see him on YouTube and Louisiana Catalyst and just talking about mortgage. And he's even helping me out with mine.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Underwood. But before I turn it over to Justin, I got a few questions to ask.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
All right, Justin, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Monroe, Louisiana, in terms of where I was born, yes.
Okay.
I moved a lot, so that's a tough question.
Okay, we'll take Monroe. What high school did you attend?
West Monroe High School.
West Monroe High School?
And El Dorado High School in Arkansas.
Okay, so Rebel, okay.
Yep.
So I'm not going to ask if we already identify you a Rebel, West Monroe Rebel.
Okay.
Okay, what's the first job that paid you cash?
McDonald's. Oh, no, cash.
Cash.
That was pouring concrete.
Pouring concrete?
Yep.
For your family or?
Yeah, that's what my family does.
So they paid you cash?
$2 a day.
$2 a day?
Yeah.
How old were you when you?
I was in 3rd, 4th grade.
Oh, child labor law.
Yeah. Yeah. No laws around child labor where I grew up.
Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Underwood.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh my God.
I really appreciate that. Hey, first of all, really good to be here. Now that I'm asked to be a speaker of young professionals, I think that means I'm not young anymore. That's really, I don't know if there's an age limit for that, but I'm really honored to be here. I love the Chamber. The Chamber has made a big impact on my professional career. So to have the opportunity to come back and speak is really important to me. So when I was talking to patients about an idea of what I could come and share and bring with you guys, I really got to thinking about the fact that, my life as a professional has been very unconventional. And I wanted to, bring you value and help you understand, at least as my experience has been, that success isn't always tied to, this, college degree or certificate that we may have or don't have. So what I wanted to do is, start with my story of how, professional success has occurred in spite of an unconventional path there. So, as I said, I'm Justin Underwood. I've been married for, this year will be 21 years, a long time. I've been with my wife since she was 14, I was 15. When she was 17 and I was 18, we discovered that she was pregnant. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And, that began this unconventional path of professionalism, because guess what? I didn't script that in the sense of like, this is what you want to do. So at age 18 and 19, we had our first child, Madison, who is now 20 years old, and a real blessing and super grateful for her. But that caused me to have to do what? All right, this is going to be interactive. This is not going to be boring. So what did that cause me to have to do? Grow up and work, right? Like I had to provide an income for a wife and a child at age 19. At that point in time, I went to work for the Guide plant out in Monroe, Louisiana. The year here is 2002, just to give you some context. I did graduate West Monroe High School in 2002. In fact, the day I got my diploma It was the day before that we found out that Jamie was pregnant. So I don't even remember getting my diploma. I just like, just what am I going to do as a dad? But that led me to the guide plant where I went to work. And at first they were like paying me really well. Like I was making $17, $18 an hour day one. But within less than a year, they cut my salary to $12.50 an hour, or my hourly pay to $12.50 an hour. So all of a sudden, I'm bringing one income in for a family. That's like two people making $6.25 an hour. It was not a lot of money, right? But it was just enough to take care of us, so it became golden handcuffs, is what I call it. Like I have these handcuffs on, but they're way too valuable to take off to go to college, like to really do that full time. And I found myself having to work overtime and Saturdays just to take care of my girls. I was there until 2006, November of 2006. We had our second child, Ashlyn, who's 16. And while she was actually still in the hospital when she was sick, I went into work that day and I went through the turnstile. And as I walked in, there were two people with clipboards and they go, "Hey, who are you?" I was like, "Well, I'm Justin. What's your work number?" Because we had a number there that identified who we were. And they were like, "You're gone. Like, this is it. This is your last day. Turn around and don't come back." And eventually, you know what happened to the guide plant. It went to Mexico. I don't know where it is now. Maybe it's still there. And so now I'm 22, 23 years old. And 22. And I have no degree. I have no education in terms of something specific as a trade. There was not another headlight plant anywhere near where I could go do that again, right? And I have 2 kids, and we bought a new house during that process. So I had a mortgage, and my wife, who was very committed to being a stay-at-home mom, and I had to figure out what to do next, right? And a couple of different things happened that I want to share with you. Well, the first thing that happened is I went into a depression. Anybody here ever been depressed? Don't admit it. But we've been there, right? I don't know if you've ever filed for unemployment, but you have to actually be unemployed for a week. And then after that, you then have to wait to get a check. Well, that turned out to be Christmas. So since I got laid off on December 6th, I didn't even get my first unemployment check till January. So it was really, really difficult. And that definitely put me in this place of depression. Well, that February, I began to kind of wake up out of it, so to speak. And I began to realize, like, okay, what I'm going to do next is probably going to set the course for my, professional career in a significant way. I had a couple of opportunities that were in front of me. One was go take the civil service test, be a firefighter, be a postman, that kind of thing. And the other was to do something on my own, more self-employed. And this was the year 2007. You may or may not remember, just to jog your memory, we knew the real estate market bubble was about to crash, right? 2007. So what did I choose to do? Go into real estate. And my first day in this training class for real estate appraisers, my instructor said, "Hey, look, if you don't already have your supervising real estate appraiser lined up, it's not going to work. They only hire people that's in their family, they go to their church, some familial or relational benefit, and if you don't already have that, it's not going to happen for you." So I panicked and immediately signed up to get my real estate license. Well, by God's grace, I actually ended up getting a license for both in the same month, and I actually did get a supervising appraiser. And that happened in April of 2007. So I began to work as a real estate appraiser. And that brings me to one of my first points about unconventional paths to success. And that is embracing the bottom of the totem pole. Everybody knows what a totem pole is. Is that politically correct? Can I use that? I think so. It's the bottom, right? My first job as a real estate appraiser, I worked for free. I said, "Hey, look, if you'll sponsor my license," because as an appraiser, you have to have a certified appraiser sponsor your license or they won't issue it, okay? I said, "I'll work for free." They said, "Hey, you come work for us, do all of our office work, we'll sponsor your license, and then maybe we'll give you work. Maybe we'll give you work." I was like, heck yeah, I'll do it. So embrace the bottom of the totem pole. Dominate it. Own it like it's no one's business. This hurry to get up the rung and up the ladder, that does not serve long-term professional success. And this is even if you're working in the field of your degree or your certification. Don't rush the bottom of the totem pole. This process of what I call embracing the bottom of the totem pole lasted for 3 years. 3 years, I was what you call a trainee, okay? So here's what they would make the trainees do. If they had a mobile home that needed appraised in Grayson, Louisiana, this guy got to do it. If they had, I'm going to use the word unconventional, they had a house that didn't conform in Rayville, Louisiana, I got to do it. What do you think I learned in those moments? Didn't like it? Yeah. I learned how to really be an appraiser. Anybody can do the cookie cutter stuff, right? In fact, you can have a computer do it nowadays. But I learned the real profession in those difficult, hard moments while I was embracing the bottom of the totem pole. Second part I want you to hear in this is I had this thought in front of me at all times. Be the employee you hope to hire. I always kind of knew that one day, Lord willing, I was going to be in a position where I would be leading people or hiring people. And so I was really committed to being the employee that I hoped to hire one day. And I kept that in front of me. How do you think that impacted those around me that were experiencing me even at a younger age? Helped me get better? Yeah. Like they liked me. Well, this is the kind of guy we want in our life to do business with. Because that was the attitude that I would show up with on a day-to-day basis. Now, that did not turn into financial success. My first 3 years in real estate as an appraiser was insanely difficult financially. There was one time where, if you remember, gas prices was like $4.50 a gallon or something like that. And we had to sell one of our cars to pay the mortgage. I tried to sell my truck because I didn't want to sell my wife's Toyota Camry, but it wouldn't sell. So we then had to sell her Camry, even though we had 2 kids, and had to get, we bought a $1,500 Pontiac Firebird. The gas gauge didn't work. But she had to have a 2-door car just to keep going. That brings me to my next point. You have to have hyper focus, laser focus. Now, think about it this way. If your focus is scattered, right? That can be useful. Like a floodlight can be useful, right? Like if you've ever needed one, it's useful. But in most settings, a floodlight is like really annoying. People don't like it. But a laser focus can be really, really useful. And this long-term focus is what you might call force multiplied. Have you heard that term before? Force multiplied? If I have a drill bit and it has a flat bit, I can get it to go deep, but it takes a lot of force. But if that drill bit is to a point, I can go a lot deeper with even less force. With the same force, or I can go as deep with less force. Well, the Lord had given me a vision. Hey, do real estate. So I had to trust it. I wasn't judging it in the moment. It was difficult, but I was not judging it in the moment. By the time in 2008, October 2008, by the time that real estate had completely crashed, remember September 2008 was the big kind of everything just started coming apart. October 2008, the food stamp office used to be on North 19th. Well, that's where I went. I walked in and I signed us up. I didn't make my wife do it because I was the provider. But I was committed to staying in real estate, and at that time, that's what it took. That's what it took. And so, come out of 2008 into 2009, I was able to obtain my certification. Just to make sure you understand what that means in the appraisal world. When you were certified, you could work on your own. You were not making a percentage of the appraisal. You can make all of the appraisal. And that happened that summer of 2009. November of 2009, I opened up Underwood Appraisals. And that's when the long-term focus, the commitment to the vision, the embracing the bottom of the totem pole really began to pay off. So I started Underwood Appraisals, and we immediately started doing better financially. Not like crazy, but it didn't take a lot to do better, but we started doing better, right? So in 2009, I committed to Underwood Appraisals, and that went until 2012, okay? 2012, I had at that point realized that I had become a workaholic. Anybody resonate with that? Workaholic? What do I mean by workaholic? At that time, I would go in on a Monday, like at 8 a.m., and I work all day, all night until I passed out the next day. That's what I mean by workaholic. And I realized that was really, that was not wise. That's not a good way to be a dad, not a good way to be a father at that point in time. So I brought my work home. I shut down my appraisal office that I had and brought the work home. And I learned a really valuable lesson at this point in time. I learned the lesson that there's overt rejection and covert rejection in the household, okay? Covert rejection is, hey, dad's gone, he's at work, but he loves us. Overt rejection is dad's home, but he doesn't have time for us. And so I'd be on the phone, I'd be stiff-arming my kids. Hey, I'll be there in a minute, wait 1 second, and they were physically and visibly experiencing dad not available to them. And that really came to a head in 2012, okay? In 2012, Origin Bank, at the time was called Community Trust, that's who I work for now, they needed to start an appraisal department, okay? With this appraisal department, that means I was going to be working for somebody else again. And I really didn't want to do that. After the experience of losing a job, I never met the person that laid me off at the guide plant. And that's never left me. I don't like that at all. And I wanted to be in control as much as I could be in the success of our family financially. I didn't want that to be in the hands of somebody else. So going to work for someone else again was a really difficult decision for me. But I came in one day, this was right after Christmas, and my youngest daughter, Ashlyn, said, Dad, I really miss when you would leave and go to work. And I was like, what do you mean, babe? I work at home now so I can see you, be with you, I can watch you play in the living room. And she said, yeah, but when you would leave, you'd come home and play with me. And it really broke my heart. And at that point in time, I was like, all right, Lord, I'll go to work for Origin. So went to work for Origin, and I was only there 9 months. I'm going to keep this part of the story short. I helped build a department for them. That was a lot of fun. And once it was built, I was bored out of my mind. And one of the things that I would offer you is the moment you know you're not in alignment with an organization, make plans to leave. Don't hang around. So I wanted to honor them and said, hey, I know this is not for me anymore. I'm going to go do something else. And that opportunity was to become a mortgage banker, okay? That was a really difficult decision for me because at this point in time, this is the year 2013, I had built my self-worth as a professional around being a real estate appraiser, And to step away from that was scary. I mean, as you can imagine, to go do something else. But I saw a lot of opportunity there, okay? And long story short, long story. I bet on myself. Long story short, I bet on myself is what I did. And so October 1st, 2013, became a mortgage banker. And I think I've done like half the mortgages in here, I think. And, it's interesting looking back, and I have to say this, okay? I never had a plan to be a mortgage banker. That was never a vision of mine at that point in time. It wasn't on my vision board. It wasn't something I'd written down. But understanding that God has a plan for you that you don't even see yet, like, ooh, I got to be careful of that one. Like, it's really important. I don't know where you're at in life right now, and maybe it doesn't resonate with you. I can't deny the truth that it is for me. Goodness. Thought I could do this without that. I learned a really important lesson. Who can toot their own horn? Promotion doesn't come from the east or the west or the south, but it's the Lord that raises a man up and sets a man down. Me getting laid off, that was him. Signing up for food stamps, he was there too. And in all the promotions, he was there. Like realizing that your career isn't just about you, it's for others. And he's telling a much bigger story. And when you sign up for that, like really cool things start to happen. Because you're not judging like, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I making enough money? Am I doing this? Like you're with others. Like you realize that it's more than just you. And so I don't want to miss that, because for me not to share that as part of my story would be to deny where the success comes from. Okay? Now, I did read a story one time. This goes back to the beginning of while I was actually still at the guide plant. I read a short biography of George Mason. Have y'all heard of George Mason before? He was, well, I'm glad you haven't. Okay, a lot of people have heard of like George Mason University, but he's known as the forgotten founding father. The forgotten founding father. George Mason wrote the Virginia Constitution and the Virginia Rights. And this is before our country was officially founded. Why is that important? Thomas Jefferson used that as the framework for the U.S. Constitution, which he was at the Constitutional Convention and he refused to sign because it didn't include a Bill of Rights. Why am I sharing this with you? He didn't go to college. He studied British law in his uncle's library as he was growing up as a kid. And this guy is the reason we have our initial 10 Bill of Rights. You know how critical that is to our country to have individual rights? And he believed in it so much he refused to sign the Constitution. And I read that and I went, he learned this in a country that hadn't been formed, in the middle of woods or whatever, in a cabin with his uncle's British library that they brought from overseas. But what day and age do I live in where I can learn and I can study and I can invest in myself with all the tools that are at my disposal? So I have literally zero excuse to not be an expert, zero excuse to not be a professional. And I know the word professional may mean something more to you than it does me. When I first became a real estate appraiser, one of the things that I was disillusioned by was what a professional was. Like, I remember interacting with professionals and I was like, that's not what I thought a professional was. What is a professional? Like, we might actually hold that bar a little higher than we should. Right? Are you with me? Lamont shaking his head. They're like, and so, but like taking ownership of my own education, taking ownership of what it means to be an expert, and not having an excuse of, well, I didn't have access to this and I didn't do that, or I don't have a degree. Like, that's hogwash. You're more than a degree. You have so much more in you that you're capable of. And so once I realized that I had that potential, it just opened up the world to me, right? And so anyways, that is my story. And again, my points on how do you chart your own path to unconventional success and professionalism. Number one, embrace the bottom of the totem pole. Own it, dominate it, don't rush it. I don't know where you're at in your career, but man, that's where you're really going to learn the most in your chosen profession or expertise. Make sure you're the employee that you hope to hire one day. And that's even if you're in a current leadership role. Like, what would your owner want in their leaders, right? Make sure you're doing that. And take ownership in what it means to be an expert, what it means to study and invest in yourself. Like, you're the most critical wealth earning potential you have. It's not your 401k. It's you, right? So make sure you're investing in that, and understand that the highs and the lows, they all have a purpose. They all have a point. They're useful in the full journey if you keep the focus of the vision that you have for your success. So that's it.
So, any questions for Justin?
Yes, they do. Come on.
Yes. So, when you realized that you were a workaholic, I know that you kind of went over it a little bit, but I just wanted you to go a little bit more in detail. What things did you have to really just break down and change so that you weren't doing that anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there's a deep response to that. So it's not like a shallow surface response. The first is like I had began to build my identity around what it meant to be a real estate appraiser. Like, I'd be like, hi, I'm Justin, I'm a real estate appraiser. That makes me valuable and you like me, right? Like, I had attached getting people's approval and acceptance to that so much that it become the most important thing in my life. And like, we were financially okay, so why am I still doing this? The other part was living in fear. Like, I knew what it was like to be broke and to like not have money. And those early days of doing appraisals, have you ever heard of an empty set out as a landlord? So if you own a property and people don't pay rent, you call the city marshal or whoever the authority is, and they actually hire someone to go into the house, take the junk out of it and put it on the side of the street. And normally it's filth. Like, when I say filth, I mean real filth. I would do that for gas money to go do an appraisal. So I had lived in those days with such scarcity that it was causing me to like justify that you just print one more invoice to stay at work a little bit longer, and trusting that the Lord was going to provide, and I didn't have to sacrifice my first importance, which is my family, was also part of that. That was also crucial.
Question. You have one more question for Justin?
Come on, you know you got a question.
How important is networking?
That's
Getting you to where you've been.
that's a beautiful question. Relationships, I can't point to any success I've had without involving someone else in that conversation. And everybody says relationships is important, okay? So I don't want to brush over that, but it's even more important than we realize. And how you show up and how you're with people matters so much that if you're trying to have success, if you're committed to having success in any way, to think that you're going to just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and work your way to it is not true. Relationships is going to be the biggest factor. Now, when I say that, people are like, oh, well, that's a good old boy system. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really being with people in a way that makes a difference.
All right. I must say, hearing Justin, I heard his story before at a time when I was going through in my own career, and I was actually going to stop building my house. And Justin shared his story with me and encouraged me to keep building the house and stay focused in my career. And I must say that this is what Young Professionals is all about, meeting people and connecting with people who know exactly what your struggles are, and so that you do realize that you're not alone. So I want to thank Justin for coming in and speaking to us about what it is that success really looks like. So let's give Justin a hand clap.
Thank you.
Couple of things, couple of announcements. I got you. Coffee and Conversations this Thursday from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. The 20th. Oh, Thursday the 20th. Sorry. Yep, I don't have my glasses. What you got, Patience?
So we just want to invite Justin from James,
So as James is coming up, are there any announcements that y'all have, any events that's coming up, or anything that's going on in Monroe?